Very good morning. You're watching NDTV. I'm Chakka Jam. Let's get you up to speed with the top headlines. Farmers to block highways on the 6th of February. They call for a nationwide Chakka Jam. All roads leading to Delhi have been fortified. Rihanna and Greta Thunberg extend support to farmers. Tweet about the agitation. Why aren't we talking about this? Tweeted Rihanna. Stand in solidarity, says activist Greta Thunberg. BJP MP Manoj Tiwari tweets where. Central government informs Lok Sabha that it had no plans to bring any central anti-conversion law to curb interfaith marriages in the country. Citizenship Act rules under preparation, says the Ministry of Home Affairs in Parliament. The centre gives itself time to July to frame rules. Aero India begins today in Bengaluru, the first air show in the COVID era. This version will be shorter with no days set aside for public due to the pandemic.
Do you just have to do something your eyes from right to left?
Amazon and NDTV 24/7 tops the budget viewing day #1 on YouTube of all English news channels. Well, our top focus story this Wednesday morning continues to remain the farmer agitation. Now, farmer unions have called for a nationwide Chakka Jam on the 6th of February. The farmer unions have said that there will be no talks till the government releases innocent protesters who have been arrested, remember, as the face-off between the farmers and the government has only intensified after the 26th January violence. Parliament, meanwhile, was adjourned repeatedly yesterday over farmer protests as the opposition repeatedly called for a discussion on the farmer agitation, something which was not granted to them. Farmer leaders, meanwhile, have said that there is no question of calling off the protest until and unless the 3 contentious agricultural laws are repealed. The farmer leader, Rakesh Tiket, has very clearly come out and said that there will be no ghar vapsi until there is a Kanun vapsi. Now, meanwhile, ahead of the February 6th agitation, all roads leading to the national capital have been fortified further. Remember, we've been bringing you stories and pictures of how there are permanent barricades, cement barricades, wires and of course nails that are being dug into these barricades in order to fortify Delhi's borders. Those are pictures from Ghazipur, Tikri and Singhu border where our team of reporters have fanned out to bring you the very latest. Let's first look at the Ghazipur border where there's heavy police deployment. At the Singhu border, farmers did try to in fact remove some of those barricades, but to no avail. At the Tikri border, we've seen iron spikes and barbed wires that have in fact been put up in order to deter any movement of farmers from entering the national capital.
Barbed wires, spikes on highways and concrete blocks. The several layers of fortification for the capital at the entry from UP at Ghazipur.
अब हम जंगल और खाई क्रॉस करके गाजियाबाद पहुंच चुके हैं और गाजियाबाद में ये आप देखिए ये फेंसिंग लगा गई है। पहले इसको आप भारत पाकिस्तान, भारत बांग्लादेश जैसे देशों के बॉर्डर पर लगी देखते थे। अब ये दिल्ली गाजियाबाद के बॉर्डर पर इस तरीके के कटीले तारों की जो फेंसिंग है उसको लगा दिया गया है ताकि कोई भी पैदल भी ना क्रॉस कर सके।
Farmers say it is insulting to be treated like the enemy.
कानून वापसी नहीं तो घर वापसी नहीं का नारा हमारा है और हमने बता दिया सरकार को ये आंदोलन अक्टूबर तक चलेगा। अक्टूबर तक
हम कोई बैरिंग तोड़ के थोड़ी जा रहे थे अंदर। हमारा तो शांतिपूर्ण धरना धरा हुआ है ताकि हम इसी बॉर्डर पर, गाजी बॉर्डर पर अपनी बात को कह सके।
But the Delhi police says these measures are justified.
मुझे ताज्जुब है कि जब 26 तारीख को जिस प्रकार से जो ट्रैक्टर्स का इस्तेमाल किया गया था, सभी पुलिसकर्मी पे चढ़ा करके बैरिकेड को तोड़ करके सब कुछ किया गया, तो आप उस समय आपने कोई सवाल नहीं पूछा। हमने क्या किया है, हमने उस बैरिकेड को मजबूत किया है ताकि बारंबार उसको तोड़ा न जाए।
Meanwhile, Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut met farmer leader Rakesh Tikayat at Gazipur and is being criticized for not meeting the protesting farmers in Mumbai.
मैंने राकेश जी को उद्धव ठाकरे साहब का संदेश दिया है, पूरे तन मन धन से हम उनके साथ हैं।
After name calling and vilification, the farmers now face barbed wires, barricades and spikes at the protest site. And from the looks of it, it seems that defenses and not dialogue has become the priority of the government to resolve this impasse. At Gazipur, with camera person Ashok Mahale, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
The wall between the government and farmers gets higher. Yesterday, they poured concrete. Today, they're raising it further, keeping protesting farmers out of Delhi. Beyond this, a second line of defense, dumpers and trailers being connected with rods to ensure tractors don't push through. No breakthrough on the 69th day of farmers' protests, and the distance between the two sides grows.
3 दिन हो गए महाराज, पहला खदाई कीती गई जेसीबी ਨਾਲ, ਬਾਅਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੀਵਾਰ ਕੱਢੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਸਰੀਆ ਪਾ ਕੇ। ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਆ, ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਆ ਜੀ, ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਤੇ ਫਤਿਹ ਪਾਈ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਖਾਲਸੇ ਨੇ, ਇਹ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਆ ਸਿੰਘੂ, ਤੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਆਣ ਕੇ ਪੜਾ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਵਾ।
यो इतनी बड़ी बड़ी दीवारें लगा रहे हैं, चीन और पाकिस्तान का बॉर्डर है क्या? हम लोग क्या इस देश के निवासी नहीं है? बच्चे घुसाए हुए चले गए तो पुलिस तो वहाँ क्यों रखते हैं पुलिस को?
Media vehicles too kept out, about 4 kilometers from the wall. To report stories from inside, one has to make his or her way through these farms to get to the protest site.
ये हर जगह से बंद कर रहे हैं, हमारे को खाने की हर चीज की प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, अभी पानी नहीं आने दे रहे।
There is a wall of a different kind too. These farmers are still cut off from the rest of the country. Internet to these protest sites is still suspended. With camera person Sushil Rathi, Arun Singh for NDTV.
And while, of course, we continue to get you all the updates from Delhi's borders, NDTV's Mohammad Ghazali has been travelling with agitating farmers. Here's his report as he tracks Delhi-bound farmers.
People have started gathering here in Kurukshetra. Mahapanchayat has been called, and one of the most unique ones as far as the Mahapanchayats in Haryana. This has been called by young students from Kurukshetra University.
तो महापंचायत करने का एक ही मकसद था, किसान संगठन को और ज़्यादा मजबूती देना, और जो हमारा आंदोलन वहाँ 2 महीने से चल रहा है उसको हम कैसे मजबूती प्रदान कर सकें।
किस प्रकार क्या रणनीति बनाई जाए कि दिल्ली जो हमारे भाई बैठे हुए हैं उनके पास रोटेशन वाइज हमने कैसे पहुंचना है, उनके पास क्या क्या सुविधाएं हमने पहुंचानी है। प्लीज सपोर्ट अस, सपोर्ट द फार्मर्स, दोज आर फीडिंग यू, no farmers, no food. Thank you.
After Rakesh Tikayat's video went viral, what we saw in Haryana, it saw an upsurge in the agitation, farm agitation, though earlier people were going towards Singhu and Tikri border. But that viral video, as we spoke to these farmers in Pai village of Kaithal district, that video certainly triggered a lot of reaction, and overnight people from Haryana started moving towards Singhu, Tikri and Ghaziabad border.
अभी जो हुआ उसके बाद किसान भावनात्मक रूप से जुड़ गया है।
किसान आंदोलन की गाय वाले आ रहे हैं, 200 रुपये किलो।
हमने एक महापंचायत बुलाई, उस महापंचायत थी जो 36 बिरादरी की महापंचायत थी हमारी, जिसमें हमारा सभी गांव के लोगों ने, सभी बिरादरियों ने समर्थन किया और कलेक्शन करी। हमारा 8-10 क्विंटल तो डेली दूध जाता है। जैसे हमने गांव में 15-20 पॉइंट बना रखे हैं, तो वहाँ हम दूध, हमारे जो कार्यकर्ता हैं, हमारे किसान यूनियन के साथी हैं जो, तो वहाँ से इकट्ठा करते हैं। जैसे 15-20 ड्राम हमने रख रखे हैं, तो वहाँ सारे ट्रैक्टर के द्वारा हम इकट्ठा कर वो फिर गाड़ियाँ बेच दी जाती है।
We have reached here in Kandela village. This Kandela village falls in Jeend district, and this was the first village which responded overnight when the teary-eyed video of Rakesh Tiket went viral. Youths came on the streets here, and I can show you, even right now we have a permanent morcha or a permanent sit-in protest here where farmers are sitting since the farm laws or the agitation against the farm laws escalated in Haryana and Punjab.
यहाँ कंडेला खाप में लोगों के एकदम कम से कम भी हजारों आदमी मेरे मकान के पास आए, प्रधान जी भाई यहाँ राकेश टिकैत का इस तरह, फिर सारा गांव जितना यहाँ युवा थे कंडेला खाप के सभी युवा यहाँ चंडीगढ़ हाईवे पर रोड को बंद कर दिया और रातों रात वहाँ गाजीपुर बॉर्डर पर सैकड़ों गाड़ी लेकर कंडेला खाप के पहुँच गए।
वहाँ पे लाइट काट दी गई है और ना पानी की व्यवस्था सरकार की तरफ से, वो गांव वाले व्यवस्था दे रहे, पानी की व्यवस्था भी गांवों से जा रहा है। वहाँ पे सरकार ने तो बिजली तक काट दी गई और इंटरनेट सुविधा बंद कर दी गई।
We are now on the Jind Rohtak highway, on the border of Jind Rohtak highway, and also we found this one group of farmers coming from the Jind district, from the Jind Patiala bordered area, and now they are moving towards Tikri border.
कोई परवाह नहीं किसी चीज की भी, कोई परवाह नहीं।
कैसे जाइएगा, रास्ता रुका हुआ है तो?
रुके हुए जाएंगे, जरूर जाएंगे, पूरी खेचड़ा से जाएंगे।
There was an overwhelming response to this farm protest going around near Gazipur border, Tikri and Singhu border as well. And these farmers say that despite what happened on January 26, they will support this farm agitation till the farm laws are repealed.
And a Delhi court yesterday granted bail to freelance journalist Mandeep Punia, who was arrested, remember, on Sunday from the Singhu border between the city and Haryana, where a huge number of farmers have been protesting for months. Mr. Punia was granted bail by the Rohini court on a guarantee of 25,000 rupees.
Relief for journalist Mandeep Punia after a Delhi court granted him bail 3 days after he was arrested by the police while covering the farmers' protest at the Singhu border.
Mr. Punia was granted bail by the Rohini court on a guarantee of 25,000 rupees. The bail order said it is a well-settled legal principle of law that bail is a rule and jail is an exception.
कहना चाहूँगी, खुश हूँ मैं, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है मुझे, सेटिस्फेक्शन है कि वो जल्दी बाहर आ ही जाएंगे। प्रोसीडिंग्स भी, मतलब हालांकि पूरा प्रोसेस बहुत ही डिस्टॉर्टिंग था कि हर मोमेंट पे एक एम्बिग्विटी दिमाग में हर टाइम, पता नहीं क्या होगा, पता नहीं बेल में हाँ होगा, बेल में ना होगा।
The Delhi police accused Punia of serious charges, including assault or criminal force to deter public servant from discharge of his duty. But in his order, Judge Satvir Singh Lamba noted that the complainant, victims and witnesses in the case are all police personnel. And so, there is no possibility that accused would be able to influence any of the police officials. The alleged scuffle incident of present case is of around 6:30 p.m. However, the present FIR was registered at around 1:21 a.m. on the next day. Accused is a freelance journalist and not carrying a press card can be no grounds for a case or arrest. The accused is a well-respected member of the society, being a journalist, including being a frequent contributor to the Caravan magazine. While Mandeep Punia has got bail, other journalists are facing police cases too over the events of Republic Day. Senior journalists Rajdeep Sardesai, Mrinal Pandey, Vinod K. Jose are facing multiple but very similar police cases, including sedition for their social media posts on the Republic Day violence. Separately, a police case has been filed in UP's Rampur against the Wire editor Siddharth Vardarajan over his tweet that shared a news report filed by the web portal regarding the death of a farmer during the tractor rally on Republic Day. With Arun Singh, Osama Shah for NDTV.
Well, there is support that is pouring in for the farmer agitation from the international community, with pop star Rihanna tweeting to say, why aren't we talking about this? Referring, of course, to India's farmer protest. And she's in fact, remember, tweeted about this, quoting a news article. Rihanna has more than 100 million followers on Twitter. So she's, of course, posted the article about the internet blockade around Delhi and the farmer agitation and tweeted to ask, why aren't we talking about this? Meanwhile, Greta Thunberg also has tweeted saying, we stand in solidarity with the farmer protest in India. Now, Member of Parliament of the BJP, Manoj Tiwari, has in fact responded to this tweet in a tongue-in-cheek response. He said, we really need to talk about this, Rihanna. Well, with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. But coming up on the other side, we'll get you the other big story that we're tracking today is India all set for a third COVID-19 vaccine. Well, the Russian Sputnik vaccine has shown 91.6% efficacy. Remember, they do have a tie-up with Dr. Reddy's in India. We'll get you all the details on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. India's COVID miracle in a certain sense continues with India's declining cases and numbers dropping daily. India has reported the lowest ever deaths in over 8 months. The Sero survey that was conducted in Delhi, though, indicates that nearly 1 crore people in Delhi have antibodies with a seropositivity rate of above 50%. It does in fact indicate that half of Delhi, as per the Sero survey, has already been infected with the coronavirus.
Till recently, this was one of the busiest COVID hospitals in Delhi and India's biggest COVID hospital with 2,000 beds dedicated for it. Now, it's a reflection on how the number of cases, not just in Delhi, but in most parts of India, are manageable.
अभी हमारे पास जो नए केसेस हैं कोविड के वो बहुत कम आ रहे हैं. मुश्किल से 1 या 2 पेशेंट 24 घंटे में एडमिट होता है. पहले हमारे पास ये इंडोर एडमिशन की संख्या 30 से 40 थी और दिवाली के आसपास तो बहुत ज्यादा थी.
India has now reported the lowest number of daily cases, about 8,600 in 8 months. In fact, at around 12 to 13,000, the average daily new cases are down by almost a third in the last 5 weeks. Delhi, one of the few states which saw multiple waves of surging cases, seems to be, according to the health minister, headed towards herd immunity, which is when a majority of the population becomes immune to a disease.
मुझे लगता है सभी को अभी मास्क लगा के रखना चाहिए, सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग का पालन करना चाहिए और हाथ को बार-बार धोना चाहिए. जो बिल्कुल आप जो कह रहे हैं हर्ड इम्यूनिटी की तरफ जो पहले कहा जाता था, अब से 3-4 महीने कह रहे थे 50% पे शायद होगी या 60% पे होगी, तो उसके आसपास हम बढ़ रहे हैं.
At 56%, every second person in Delhi has been infected with COVID. This is what the 5th and largest sero survey conducted across the city during January has revealed.
एक बात तो मान के चलिए, अगर आप 56% को लोग हो गए तो 44% लोगों को आज भी इम्यूनिटी नहीं है, तो एक्सपोज्ड है. तो अगर आपको अगर बन भी गई है सबको, तो प्रिकॉशन आज भी सबको तो नहीं रखने हैं, सबको मास्क पहनना है और सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग को मेंटेन करना है.
Delhi's population is about 1.87 crore. So nearly 1 crore people were infected, while the officially registered cases stand at 6.35 lakh. Highest prevalence has been found in Southeast District at 62% and the lowest in North District at 49%.
Delhi has been seeing a constant decline in cases in the last week. Less than 200 cases are being reported daily and less than 10 deaths are being recorded every day. In New Delhi with camera person Azam Siddiqui, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Well, moving on to the other big development that we're tracking, Sputnik V, which is the world's first registered vaccine based on a well-studied human adenoviral vector-based platform, has been peer-reviewed by the Lancet medical journal. It has an efficacy rate of more than 91%. But remember, it's good news for India because it is being distributed here in India by Dr. Reddy's group, which is also conducting clinical trials in India, which, remember, makes it easier for the vaccine to be given approval by the Indian drug regulators. Here's a brief of what we know about the Sputnik V vaccine. Well, like I said, it's based on the human adenoviral vector-based platform, a weakened COVID virus that delivers parts of the pathogen which triggers essentially an immune response in the body. Phase 3 clinical trials are on in India, in the UAE, in Venezuela, and in Belarus at the moment. Let's go right across to Sukirti, tracking the details of this story. Sukirti, phase 3 trials are underway in India. We know that there is a tie-up with Dr. Reddy's labs to distribute the vaccine here in India. How close are we to a third COVID vaccine?
Well, it seems the pace at which phase 3 trials are continuing, we could
get access to this vaccine or see an approval for this vaccine in about the next 2 to 3 months. Because by end of February or by first week of March, we are expecting that Dr. Reddy would be able to finish the phase 3 trials that are going on in India, and they would be applying for a EUA around that time. But these are, of course, estimated timelines. But the phase 3 trials are being conducted on 1,600 participants in India, and their current timeline seems to go along those lines. And this is something that even the government has been saying repeatedly, that while 2 vaccines have already been given emergency use authorization in India, at least 2 to 3 vaccines could be coming up in the next few months. And going by the kind of data that has been coming in, especially it being published in a medical journal as renowned and as trustworthy as it is concerned in the Lancet, people have a lot more faith also in the Sputnik V vaccine now, because until now there were several questions when Russia had initially launched it, and there was a lack of data. People had their own questions about it. But considering now there are more and more analysis coming out, and the fact that their numbers are very good at this point of time, their efficacy is only behind Pfizer and Moderna, whose efficacy is around 95%. So good numbers at this point of time. The trial pace is good, and for India, definitely the biggest advantages is that it can be stored at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, which is in line with India's current cold storage capacity.
All right, appreciate you, Sukirti, for joining us with the very latest. We'll, of course, continue to track the details of the story very closely. It's a significant development that has the potential to, in fact, give India a third COVID-19 vaccine within a span of the coming few months. We're going to slip into a very short break, but coming up on the other side, we'll get you all the details of the first Aero Show in the midst of a pandemic. The Aero Show, the 13th edition, is underway in Bengaluru from today.
Do you just have to keep shutting your eyes from right to left? Does that work?
Welcome back. On to the other big story that we're tracking. The rules under the contentious Citizenship Amendment Act, which was enacted, remember, over a year ago, are still under preparation. This is what the central government has informed in the Lok Sabha. The centre has given itself time until July at least to frame and implement rules relating to the controversial citizenship law, and amendments to which, remember, were passed back in December 2019 amid unprecedented chaos in Parliament and violent protests that took place across the country. The CAA has triggered protests in several states, including Assam and West Bengal, both of which are due to hold assembly elections in the coming weeks and months. Now, in a response to the question in Parliament by Congress MP VK Srikandan, the Home Ministry said that the Citizenship Amendment Act, or the CAA, had been in force since January the 10th, 2020, but rules were still under preparation. Interim relief for Amazon inside. Well, the Delhi High Court has said that the future retail is to maintain status quo on the future Reliance retail deal. Status quo on a deal worth, remember, 24,713 crore on the future Reliance retail deal. And this is, of course, interim relief that's coming in for Amazon in the ongoing dispute with the Future Group's asset sale. Amazon has responded saying they appreciate the interim order of the Delhi High Court to maintain the status quo. Future Retail, on the other hand, has responded and said they will continue to explore all legal remedies. Now, LCA Tejas Division Plant 2 was inaugurated by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. He inaugurated the plant for the indigenous LCA Tejas, planned as the backbone of the Indian Air Force fighter fleet.
A new facility being inaugurated by India's Defence Minister to double production of India's indigenous fighter plane LCA Tejas from 8 to 16 planes a year. This is to meet the Indian Air Force's massive order of 83 off the planes.
48,000 करोड़ का ऑर्डर आर्म्ड फोर्सेस की तरफ से आपको ये मिल गया है और मैं कह सकता हूं कि इंडिजिनस डिफेंस प्रोक्योरमेंट के इतिहास में यह सबसे बड़ा प्रोक्योरमेंट है.
Many public and private players are part of the massive project. It is estimated that it will lead to the generation of 5,000 primary jobs in the private sector, with this being the first time that Indian private players are partnering to manufacture aircraft fuselage and wings.
We are getting a huge order for 83 Mark 1A aircraft.
Yes. The order is a huge boost for HAL.
It's very good opportunity to have a big deal for HAL.
The Tejas Mark 1A, which will be built here, incorporates 40 key changes from the existing variant of the fighter, and its performance has been benchmarked against the upgraded Mirage 2000, till recently the most advanced fighter in the Indian Air Force service. The new plant will start by focusing on production of the trainer version of LCA Tejas. It's a mode of celebration here at this brand new plant that will help to double the manufacturing capability of the LCA Tejas from 8 to 16 aircraft a year. This is indeed a big day for all the staff of HAL. With this order of over 83 aircraft from the Indian Air Force, it will give a massive boost to defence manufacturing in the country, both government and private. With Govind Murthy, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
Now, Aero India will get off to a start later today in Bengaluru. It will be the first air show in the COVID era. This version of the Aero show, the 13th edition, will be shorter, with no days that have been set aside for any public due to the pandemic. Maya Sharma brings you more details.
Do you just have to keep turning your eyes from right to left? This time, what?
Aero India 2021 off to a start. This is the 13th edition of the show, which is held every 2 years. It began back in 1996. This, of course, comes after a year like no other, the COVID-19 pandemic slowing everything down. But it was decided that Aero India 2021 would go ahead. It's, of course, going to be slightly different. It's a hybrid show. There will be physical presence on the ground at the Yelahanka Air Force Station, where the event is held, but also a lot of online participation. There will be 3 business days where people will hope to sell their wares to get people interested in their product, but there will be no public days. Usually the weekend after the air show is for the public to come and enjoy the flying displays, the highlight of any show. But this year, no public days and very limited access for the public to see the flying displays. This will also have the first time that the Surya Kirans and the Sarang teams will have a joint aerobatics display. So lots of interest. And of course, it comes in the backdrop of that huge Indian Air Force order of 83 LCA Tejas aircraft, which has really given a boost to defence production in India, both the private and public sector. So Aero India 2021 off to a start here in Bengaluru to go on for 3 days.
Well, the other big development that we're tracking, will Sputnik be India's third COVID-19 vaccine? The CEO of the Russian Investment Fund has spoken to NDTV after the phase 3 trial data published in the Lancet, remember, showed over 90% efficacy. This is good news for India. They do have a tie-up with Dr. Reddy's labs here in India that is conducting clinical trials as well. Listen in to what he said.
The RDIF, or the Russian Direct Investment Fund, is Russia's sovereign wealth fund which helps in collaborating and making this vaccine available. Mr. Kirill Dmitriev, thank you very much for joining us right here on NDTV. First of all, we've heard a lot, the latest news about Sputnik V, but we would like to hear it from you. What would you like to say?
So we have great news that Lancet, one of the top publications in the world, published phase 3 results of Sputnik V vaccine that showed efficacy of 91.6%, which is basically very high efficacy, and showed 100% protection against severe cases. And this is peer-reviewed data there are only 4 vaccines in the world that published results of phase 3 interim results, and Sputnik V is only one of 3 vaccines in the world with efficacy of more than 90%. And not only efficacy of 90% is important, but also the fact that our vaccine among vaccines with efficacy greater than 90% can be stored at +2, +8 temperature versus -70 that is required for some mRNA vaccines. And also it's much more affordable than mRNA vaccines. So definitely great news, very important news, and validation of what Russia has been saying all along, that we have vaccine for humankind, one of the best vaccines in the world.
Yes, yes, Mr. Dmitriev, and congratulations, a great achievement. Now, I want to ask you this question, particularly of great interest in India. What are your plans of scaling up the production so that it's available?
Well, definitely, and that's why India is a great partner for Russia. And really, Sputnik V, as a Russian-Indian vaccine, as a big part will be manufactured in India. We have 5 manufacturing partners in India who are already producing the vaccine, and we will supply more than 700 million people doses, so 1.4 billion doses of Sputnik V vaccine this year. And we actually are willing to partner with vaccines who have efficacy less than 90%. So, for example, AstraZeneca's vaccine has efficacy of 62.1%, and Serum Institute is producing this. We are now doing a clinical trial to help AstraZeneca increase the efficacy of their vaccine closer to 90% by giving them 1 shot of Sputnik. So we'll definitely be producing lots of our vaccine, including in India, but we're also going to be partnering with other vaccines who have efficacy less than 90% to help them increase their efficacy, and then it will mean that we will be producing some of these vaccines jointly.
Mr. Dmitriev, I'll come to this partnership point a little later, but let's talk about an extremely crucial point, particularly in the Indian context, the cost of your vaccine.
So the cost is less than $10 per shot, and jointly with AstraZeneca, we are 2 of the most affordable vaccines in the world. And that is very important because when we set up to develop Sputnik V, we wanted it to be a vaccine for the whole mankind. And it means it had to be safe, and we based it based on a safe human adenoviral platform that has been studied for decades. We already saw the efficacy numbers, which are very high, and then we wanted to make sure it's affordable and can also be delivered easily in India and other countries using +2, +8 temperature. So we have a combination of all of this, and frankly, that puts Sputnik V on top of the vaccine list in terms of safety, efficacy, price, and delivery. It's really a vaccine for the mankind.
Now, Mr. Dmitriev, I know that there is a process in India for this vaccine to be rolled out, but do you have your mechanism in place, the necessary supply chain in place, the production capabilities in place? Would you like to tell us how soon can we expect that to happen, the rollout, once approved?
So we are working very closely with our great partner, Dr. Reddy. And we already are doing phase 3 in India, and we will also be applying for emergency use authorization soon. Sputnik V is already authorized and registered in 16 countries around the world, including Europe, in Hungary, in Latin America, in Argentina, Bolivia, in Africa, in Middle East and United Arab Emirates, so in many nations. So we expect emergency approval to go through either this month or next month, and we'll be able to start deliveries of Sputnik V vaccine to India right after that.
Okay. No, Mr. Dmitriev, just for the benefit of our viewers, you are saying that your vaccine is going to apply for emergency use authorization to the drug controller in India either this month or next month. Is that how soon we can expect post-approval the vaccine to be available?
Well, I think we will apply either this month or March. Dr. Reddy will determine this timing. And as soon as this approval is granted, we will be willing to start supplying of our vaccine to India. This week, already 12 new countries started using Sputnik this week. And for 10 out of those 12 countries, it is the first vaccine that they have received. And going forward, we believe that vaccines with 90% efficacy will really be the vaccines for the people, because if you have vaccine with 90% efficacy, why would you use, or who you would give vaccine with less of an efficacy? So that's why we'll be working with vaccines who have efficacy of 60% and lower efficacy like this, to help them increase efficacy to 90% as we have.
Okay. Mr. Dmitriev, now we've seen whether it's Pfizer or AstraZeneca, you always have to take 2 jabs, right? Even in the case of Bharat Biotech. What has been, would you like to tell, for the benefit of our viewers, whether one would need 1 jab of the Sputnik V or 2 jabs, the efficacy details?
So our Sputnik vaccine is also 2 shots, 21 days apart, and this is vaccines that will give more than 90% efficacy. We will also introduce in March a vaccine that is just 1 shot, and it will have efficacy of close to 80%. Oh. So even this 1 shot we have will be higher by efficacy than some of the existing vaccines. And then we'll have 2 products. One is this 1 shot that will have a little bit less of a duration of vaccination and less of an efficacy, and our typical 2-dose regimen, which gives more than 90% efficacy. And based on the circumstances, I think, and based on the age, countries will be able to choose which vaccine and for what age group they would like to use.
Sure, but then as a company, Mr. Dmitriev, are you looking at Sputnik to be the main vaccine, the vaccine?
Sputnik V is our main vaccine, and we will be also producing it in India and supplying it to many other markets. And as I mentioned, India is really our core partner. India has built a great production hub for vaccines, and that's why many manufacturers want to produce in India. So we'll be supplying Sputnik V to Indian people with Dr. Reddy, as well as we'll be exporting Sputnik V from India to many other nations around the world.
No, that's great. But what I was meaning to ask is, because in one of your answers earlier, I heard you saying that this is going to be the vaccine for the people. So are you looking at the correct price and the right amount of doses for Sputnik V to become the main vaccine and not say, the ones that have already got emergency use approval?
Well, again, we advocate the concept of portfolio of vaccines. I think not one vaccine can really be the only solution. We definitely believe our vaccine is the best, given safety, efficacy, price, and logistics, but we cannot supply the whole market, all of the countries. So basically, India is doing exactly right to have different vaccines that can be provided. And as I mentioned, we are happy to work with vaccines of efficacy less than 90%, to give them one of our shots to help them with efficacy. But going forward, I believe in 2, 3, 4 months, most countries will try to focus on vaccines that have 90% efficacy, because how do you justify giving somebody 60% vaccine with efficacy if you have a 90% efficacy vaccine as well?
I agree with that, Mr. Kirill, but you've mentioned this repeatedly through the course of the interview, and I have to ask you this now. You seem to suggest that the vaccines be mixed, which means that there is a jab of another vaccine and then it be topped up with your vaccine, which has reportedly greater efficacy. How exactly will this be done, and what's the study behind this?
That is a mistake. So we officially starting clinical trial with AstraZeneca together. And we will start them in Azerbaijan and UAE, and we have agreement in AstraZeneca to test exactly this. We believe if we use one AstraZeneca component, one Sputnik component, this will increase the efficacy of AstraZeneca
government
vaccine.
Says don't mix.
And this will start a clinical trial, and of course we'll share the results of clinical trial. But we do believe, particularly in light of mutations, that combining vaccines is important, and combining vaccines will have better results than for some of the low efficacy vaccine. If you have a 62.1% efficacy that Serum Institute has for the vaccine based on the Lancet publication, of course it makes sense to explore how you can increase efficacy if you add a Sputnik shot, which has more than 90% efficacy.
No, my final question, Mr. Dmitriev, each and every government representative that we at NDTV have spoken to have said, do not mix the vaccines. If you've gone for Covaxin, then make sure the 2 jabs are from Covaxin. one from Covishield, the other also has to be from Covishield. Certificates are being issued. So naturally, a question that is going to occur to the minds of everyone who's listening to you is this mixing of vaccine that you're talking about. Is it safe? The concern
well,
of safety.
And we'll do clinical trials, but of course we believe it's similar technology. It's based on adenoviral vectors, and we believe that those technologies, particularly the ones that we use based on human adenovirus, are very safe and has been proven to be safe over decades. And this is why we are also starting clinical trials jointly with AstraZeneca, and they have confirmed those, and we will start them as soon as next week.
Sure. All right. Kirill Dmitriev, CEO of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, Russia's sovereign wealth fund. Thank you very much for joining us right here on NDTV.
A very good morning. You're watching NDTV. I'm Rishika Barwa. The big focus story for us continues to remain the farmer agitation. Remember, the protest has only intensified after the Republic Day standoff. What we're now learning is that there's going to be a nationwide protest, a Chakka Jam that's been called for by the farmer unions on the 6th of February. So this, of course, is the big story that we're tracking. And ahead of this planned protest on the 6th of January, all roads leading to Delhi have in fact been fortified. Let's get you up to speed with the very latest as far as the situation on Delhi's borders is concerned.
Barbed wires, spikes on highways and concrete blocks. The several layers of fortification for the capital at the entry from UP at Ghazipur.
अब हम जंगल और खाई क्रॉस करके गाजियाबाद पहुंच चुके हैं और गाजियाबाद में ये आप देखिए, ये फेंसिंग लगा गई है। पहले इसको आप भारत पाकिस्तान, भारत बांग्लादेश जैसे देशों के बॉर्डर पर लगी देखते थे। अब ये दिल्ली गाजियाबाद के बॉर्डर पर इस तरीके के कटीले तारों की जो फेंसिंग है उसको लगा दिया गया है ताकि कोई भी पैदल भी ना क्रॉस कर सके।
Farmers say it is insulting to be treated like the enemy.
कानून वापसी नहीं तो घर वापसी नहीं का नारा हमारा है और हमने बता दिया सरकार को ये आंदोलन अक्टूबर तक चलेगा। अक्टूबर तक
हम कोई बैरिंग तोड़ के थोड़ी जा रहे थे अंदर, हमारा तो शांतिपूर्ण धरना धरा हुआ है ताकि हम इसी बॉर्डर पर, गाजी बॉर्डर पर अपनी बात को कह सके।
But the Delhi police says these measures are justified.
मुझे ताज्जुब है कि जब 26 तारीख को जिस प्रकार से जो ट्रैक्टर्स का इस्तेमाल किया गया था, सभी पुलिसकर्मी पे चढ़ा करके बैरिकेड को तोड़ करके सब कुछ किया गया, तो आप उस समय आपने कोई सवाल नहीं पूछा। हमने क्या किया है? हमने उस बैरिकेड को मजबूत किया ताकि बारंबार उसको तोड़ा न जाए।
Meanwhile, Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut met farmer leader Rakesh Tikayat at Ghazipur and is being criticized for not meeting the protesting farmers in Mumbai.
मैंने राकेश जी को उद्धव ठाकरे साहब का संदेश दिया है, पूरे तन मन धन से हम उनके साथ हैं।
After name calling and vilification, the farmers now face barbed wires, barricades and spikes at the protest site. And from the looks of it, it seems that defences and not dialogue has become the priority of the government to resolve this impasse. At Ghazipur with camera person Ashok Mahale, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
The wall between the government and farmers gets higher. Yesterday, they poured concrete. Today, they're raising it further, keeping protesting farmers out of Delhi. Beyond this, a second line of defense, dumpers and trailers being connected with rods to ensure tractors don't push through. No breakthrough on the 69th day of farmers' protests, and the distance between the two sides grows.
3 दिन हो गए महाराज, पहला खदाई कीती गई जेसीबी ना, बाद दे विच दीवार कड्ढी गई है सरिया पा के। ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਆ ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਸਾਡਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਆ ਜੀ, ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਤੇ ਫਤਿਹ ਪਾਈ ਆ ਨਾ ਖਾਲਸੇ ਨੇ, ਇਹ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਆ ਸਿੰਘੂ ਤੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਆਣ ਕੇ ਪੜਾ ਕਰਦਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਵਾ।
यो इतनी बड़ी बड़ी दीवारें लगा रहे हैं, चीन और पाकिस्तान का बॉर्डर है क्या?
हम लोग क्या इस देश के निवासी नहीं हैं? बच्चे घुसाए हुए चले गए तो पुलिस तो वहाँ क्यों रखते हैं पुलिस को?
Media vehicles too kept out, about 4 kilometers from the wall. To report stories from inside, one has to make his or her way through these farms to get to the protest site.
ये हर जगह से बंद कर रहे हैं हमारे को खाने की हर चीज की प्रॉब्लम आ रही है अभी पानी नहीं आने दे रहे.
There is a wall of a different kind too. These farmers are still cut off from the rest of the country. Internet to these protest sites is still suspended. With camera person Sushil Rathi, Arun Singh for NDTV.
All right, let's get you a live update now from the Ghazipur border where, remember, heavy security deployment has been seen. Arun is tracking the details of this story. Arun, you've been covering this agitation from different areas of the national capital ahead of the February 6th agitation that the farmers have now announced, which is going to be a nationwide agitation. What really is the mood on the ground and what is the preparation that the Delhi police has made?
Well, this was the first location which saw heavy security deployment or measures like nails being put on the road. This was one of the first locations that saw that kind of security arrangement. And now, when farm unions have announced Chakka Jam for the coming Saturday, again, there is heavy barricading, also heavy police deployment and other forces as well. But before that, there's another crucial detail that we should follow, which is today's Mahapanchayat. So right when we saw Rakesh Tikait crying here at this very border, the very first village to respond and come to this spot was Kandela village of Haryana. That was the first village that, chalked out a plan to come here and to not let this movement die. Today, the same village, that very village or that very Khap, which is Kandela Khap, is conducting its Kisan Mahapanchayat, and important leaders or most of the protesters from here are also heading towards Jean today. So we've learned that farm leaders like Mr. Rakesh Tikait, Naresh Tikait are also going to Jean to address the rally or address the Kisan Mahapanchayat there. So that's also one crucial connection here between Ghazipur and Kandela Mahapanchayat that is happening today. As far as the traffic movement is concerned, so this area before a few days was occupied, but this, as we have all seen, how it got vacated, and there is traffic movement on this side where we've seen farmers camping, but that camping spot has shifted. It is very much here, and because of internet suspension, we are coming to you from an area which is seeing the traffic movement, as we have our OB van also parked here. So, but on the other side of it, there is a huge security, but also a big number of protesters camping here at Ghazipur border ahead of the crucial Chakka Jam call, which is going to happen on Saturday, and today's Kisan Mahapanchayat in Kandela village of Jean.
All right, we'll keep coming back to you, Arun, for more updates as you continue to track the details of this story from the Ghazipur border. Remember, the Delhi police is leaving no stone unturned ahead of the February 6th agitation. The entire border, and not just the Ghazipur border, but all borders have in fact been fortified. We'll keep a close watch on those developments. Meanwhile, our colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been travelling with farmers who are Delhi bound. He sent us these reports.
People have started gathering here in Kurukshetra. Mahapanchayat has been called, and one of the most unique ones as far as the Mahapanchayats in Haryana. This has been called by young students from Kurukshetra University.
तो महापंचायत करने का एक ही मकसद था, किसान संगठन को और ज़्यादा मजबूती देना, और जो हमारा आंदोलन वहाँ 2 महीने से चल रहा है उसको हम कैसे मजबूती प्रदान कर सकें।
किस प्रकार क्या रणनीति बनाई जाए कि दिल्ली जो हमारे भाई बैठे हुए हैं उनके पास रोटेशन वाइज हमने कैसे पहुंचना है, उनके पास क्या क्या सुविधाएं हमने पहुंचानी है। प्लीज सपोर्ट अस, सपोर्ट द फार्मर्स, दोज आर फीडिंग यू, no farmers, no food. Thank you.
After Rakesh Tikait's video went viral, what we saw in Haryana, it saw an upsurge in the agitation, farm agitation. Though earlier people were going towards Singhu and Tikri border, But that viral video, as we spoke to these farmers in Pai village of Kaithal district, that video certainly triggered a lot of reaction, and overnight people from Haryana started moving towards Singhu, Tikri and Ghaziabad border.
अभी जो हुआ उसके बाद किसान भावनात्मक रूप से जुड़ गया है।
किसान आंदोलन की गाय जाड़े आ रहे हैं 200 रुपये किलो। हमने एक महापंचायत बुलाई, उस महापंचायत थी जो 36 बिरादरी की महापंचायत थी हमारी, जिसमें हमारा सभी गांव के लोगों ने, सभी बिरादरियों ने समर्थन किया और कलेक्शन करी। हमारा 8-10 क्विंटल तो डेली दूध जाता है। जैसे हमने गांव में 15-20 पॉइंट बना रखे हैं, तो वहाँ हम दूध, हमारे जो कार्यकर्ता हैं, हमारे किसान यूनियन के साथी हैं जो, तो वहाँ से इकट्ठा करते हैं। जैसे 15-20 ड्राम हमने रख रखे हैं, तो वहाँ सारे ट्रैक्टर के द्वारा हम इकट्ठा कर वो फिर गाड़ियाँ बेच दी जाती है।
We have reached here in Kandela village. This Kandela village falls in Jind district, and this was the first village which responded overnight when the teary-eyed video of Rakesh Tikait went viral. Youths came on the streets here, and I can show you even right now we have a permanent morcha or a permanent sit-in protest here where farmers are sitting since the farm laws or the agitation against the farm laws escalated in Haryana and Punjab.
यहाँ कंडेला खाप में लोगों के एकदम कम से कम भी हजारों आदमी मेरे मकान के पास आए। प्रधान जी भाई यहाँ पर राकेश टिकैत का इस तरह, फिर सारा गांव जितना यहाँ युवा थे कंडेला खाप के सभी युवा यहाँ चंडीगढ़ हाईवे पर रोड को बंद कर दिया, और रातों रात वहाँ गाजीपुर बॉर्डर पर सैकड़ों गाड़ी लेकर कंडेला खाप के पहुँच गए।
वहाँ पे लाइट काट दी गई है और ना पानी की व्यवस्था सरकार की तरफ से, वो गांव वाले व्यवस्था दे रहे, पानी की व्यवस्था भी गांवों से जा रहा है। वहाँ पे सरकार ने तो बिजली तक काट दी गई और इंटरनेट सुविधा बंद कर दी गई।
We are now on the Jind Rohtak highway, on the border of Jind Rohtak highway, and also we found this one group of farmers coming from the Jind district, from the Jind Patiala bordered area, and now they are moving towards Tikri border.
कोई परवाह नहीं किसी चीज की भी, कोई परवाह नहीं।
कैसे जाइएगा, रास्ता रुका हुआ है तो?
रुके हुए जाएंगे, जरूर जाएंगे, पूरी खेचड़ा से जाएंगे।
There was an overwhelming response to this farm protest going around near Ghazipur border, Tikri and Singhu border as well. And these farmers say that despite what happened on January 26, they will support this farm agitation till the farm laws are repealed.
Well, 3 days after he was arrested by the police while covering the farmer protest at the Singhu border, a Delhi court has granted bail to freelance journalist Mandeep Punia. He was arrested on Sunday from the Singhu border.
Relief for journalist Mandeep Punia after a Delhi court granted him bail. 3 days after he was arrested by the police while covering the farmers' protest at the Singhu border.
Mr. Punia was granted bail by the Rohini court on a guarantee of 25,000 rupees. The bail order said it is a well-settled legal principle of law that bail is a rule and jail is an exception.
कहना चाहूँगी खुश हूँ मैं, बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है मुझे, सेटिस्फेक्शन है कि वो जल्दी बाहर आ ही जाएंगे। प्रोसीडिंग्स भी मतलब हालांकि पूरा प्रोसेस बहुत ही डिस्टॉर्टिंग था कि हर मोमेंट पे एक एम्बिग्विटी दिमाग में हर टाइम, पता नहीं क्या होगा, पता नहीं बेल में हाँ होगा, बेल में ना होगा।
The Delhi police accused Punia of serious charges, including assault or criminal force to deter public servant from discharge of his duty. But in his order, Judge Satvir Singh Lama noted that the complainant, victims and witnesses in the case are all police personnel. And so, there is no possibility that accused would be able to influence any of the police officials. The alleged scuffle incident of present case is of around 6:30 p.m. However, the present FIR was registered at around 1:21 a.m. on the next day. Accused is a freelance journalist and not carrying a press card can be no grounds for a case or arrest. The accused is a well-respected member of the society, being a journalist, including being a frequent contributor to the Caravan magazine. While Mandeep Punia has got bail, other journalists are facing police cases too over the events of Republic Day. Senior journalists Rajdeep Sardesai, Mrinal Pandey, Vinod K. Jose are facing multiple but very similar police cases, including sedition for their social media posts on the Republic Day violence. Separately, a police case has been filed in UP's Rampur against the Wire editor Siddharth Vardarajan over his tweet that shared a news report filed by the web portal regarding the death of a farmer during the tractor rally on Republic Day. With Arun Singh, Osama Shah for NDTV.
Meanwhile, this protest, the farmer protest, has now gained global attention. International pop star Rihanna, who has more than 100 million followers on Twitter, has tweeted about the protest, saying, "Why aren't we talking about this? #farmer protest." She tweeted this along with a news article about the internet blockade around the national capital. Greta Thunberg also took to Twitter to say that we stand in solidarity with the farmer protest in India. Manoj Tiwari, Member of Parliament of the BJP, responded to say, "Where have you been, Rihanna? We really need to talk about this. #Rihanna." Meanwhile, US Vice President Kamala Harris's niece has also tweeted about this particular protest. Well, in a joint operation with the Uttar Pradesh police, the Delhi police on Tuesday killed a criminal who was wanted in a murder case of a constable after an exchange of fire in the Baraut area. This is what officials have said. The accused was identified as Javed Rashid, 38, resident of Ghaziabad in Uttar Pradesh, they said. A team of Delhi police special cell was in Baraut. On Tuesday, information was received that Javed was coming in a car near the Gold Tube Well at the Binali Meerut Road between 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. and that is when he was in fact killed.
जनपद बागपत की पुलिस टीम ने दिल्ली स्पेशल के साथ एक जॉइंट ऑपरेशन में 1 लाख के इनामी अपराधी जावेद को मार गिराया है। जावेद वह अपराधी है जिसने सितंबर के माह में जनपद बागपत के थाना सिंगावली अहिर में दिल्ली पुलिस में कार्यरत एक आरक्षी मनीष यादव की हत्या करके उससे लूट की थी। इस प्रकरण में 4 लोग थे, जिसमें 2 लोग वहां पर अरेस्ट हो गए थे। इसमें यह अपराधी पिछले कई दिनों से फरार चला, जिस पर 1 लाख का इनाम था। दिल्ली, गाजियाबाद, बागपत और एनसीआर क्षेत्रों में इसके ऊपर 19 आपराधिक मामले हैं, जिसमें हत्या, लूट, छिनैती और पुलिस मुठभेड़ के धाराएं हैं। जब मौके पर एक सफ़ेद कार को रोकने की कोशिश की गई, जिसमें ये इनपुट था कि कुछ अपराधी हो सकते हैं, उन्होंने गाड़ी भगाने की कोशिश की गई। गाड़ी टॉपल करने की स्थिति में आ गई और रोड के साइड में जाके भिड़ गई।
All right, with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. Coming up on the other side, well, Aero India begins in Bengaluru today, the first air show in the midst of a pandemic. We'll bring you all the details. Stay with us. Welcome back. On to the other big story we're tracking this morning. In a huge boost to defence manufacturing, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has inaugurated a new plant at the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited in Bengaluru to double the production of India's indigenous fighter jet LCA Tejas.
A new facility being inaugurated by India's Defence Minister to double production of India's indigenous fighter plane LCA Tejas, from 8 to 16 planes a year. This is to meet the Indian Air Force's massive order of 83 of the planes.
48,000 करोड़ का ऑर्डर आर्म फोर्सेस की तरफ से आपको ये मिल गया है और मैं कह सकता हूं कि इंडिजिनस डिफेंस प्रोक्योरमेंट के इतिहास में यह सबसे बड़ा प्रोक्योरमेंट है.
Many public and private players are part of the massive project. It is estimated that it will lead to the generation of 5,000 primary jobs in the private sector, with this being the first time that Indian private players are partnering to manufacture aircraft fuselage and wings.
We are getting a huge order for 83 Mark 1A aircraft.
Yes. The order is a huge boost for HAL.
It's very good opportunity to have a big deal for HAL.
The Tejas Mark 1A, which will be built here, incorporates 40 key changes from the existing variant of the fighter, and its performance has been benchmarked against the upgraded Mirage 2000, till recently the most advanced fighter in the Indian Air Force service. The new plant will start by focusing on production of the trainer version of LCA Tejas. It's a mood of celebration here at this brand new plant that will help to double the manufacturing capability of the LCA Tejas from 8 to 16 aircraft a year. This is indeed a big day for all the staff of HAL. With this order of over 83 aircraft from the Indian Air Force, it will give a massive boost to defence manufacturing in the country, both government and private. With Govind Murthy, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV.
And Aero India will get off to a start later today in Bengaluru. It's the first air show in the COVID era. This version of the air show will be shorter and no days have been set aside for the public due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Maya Sharma reports.
Aero India 2021 off to a start. This is the 13th edition of the show, which is held every 2 years. It began back in 1996. This, of course, comes after a year like no other, the COVID-19 pandemic slowing everything down. But it was decided that Aero India 2021 would go ahead. It's, of course, going to be slightly different. It's a hybrid show. There will be physical presence on the ground at the Yelahanka Air Force Station, where the event is held, but also a lot of online participation. There will be 3 business days where people will hope to sell their wares to get people interested in their product, but there will be no public days. Usually the weekend after the air show is for the public to come and enjoy the flying displays, the highlight of any show. But this year, no public days and very limited access for the public to see the flying displays. This will also have the first time that the Surya Kirans and the Saring teams will have a joint aerobatics display. So lots of interest, and of course it comes in the backdrop of that huge Indian Air Force order of 83 LCA Tejas aircraft, which has really given a boost to defence production in India, both the private and public sector. So Aero India 2021 off to a start here in Bengaluru to go on for 3 days.
The LCA should now move rearwards and attain high speed, made possible due to its unique hingeless rotor.
Well, with that, we're going to slip into a very short break. We have a lot more lined up on Good Morning India. Stay with us. Welcome back. We have breaking news that's coming in from Parliament. There's a breakthrough between the government and the opposition that's been achieved in the Rajya Sabha. The government has agreed for a discussion. The opposition, remember, wanted a standalone discussion on the farmer issue. The government has finally agreed to this discussion. Sunil Prabhu joins us with the very latest. Sunil, after a stormy session that we saw yesterday in Parliament, are we likely to see now a more civilized discussion over the farmer issue today?
Yes, we'll definitely see, because there has been, as you rightly pointed out, a breakthrough and understanding between the government and the opposition. Over 16 opposition parties had wanted a standalone discussion on the farmers' issue, since they realized that they did not have the time and it would not be appropriate. They decided that within the motion of address, there will be at least 5 hours given standalone time for the farmers' discussion. They have decided to suspend question hour for the next 2 to 3 days, as well as the private members' bill, and that's the reason for why there has been an agreement. I spoke to Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad, the leader of opposition, who said because they agreed to this point, we agreed to carry forward this discussion and allow Parliament to function, with the government agreeing to this major demand of 15 hours with 5 hours standalone for the farmers' issue.
All right. In fact, the proceedings in the Rajya Sabha have already begun. Let's dip in and listen in.
You are not doing anything good to the Kisans. You are hurting their interest by stopping the discussion. We are going to discuss President's address and also farmers' issues. You will not get chance. Do I have to name you? Please don't test my patience. ये तानाशाही नहीं चलेगा. पूरा हाउस बहस करना चाहते हैं. अब 3 लोग आके इसको डिस्टर्ब करें. I have only 2 ways. Name them, send them out, or otherwise suspend, adjourn the house. No discussion is allowed. Everybody should go to their respective seats. Sit down. Honorable members, I am compelled to use Rule 255, withdrawal of member. The chairman may direct any member whose conduct is in his opinion grossly disorderly to withdraw immediately from the council, and any member so ordered to withdraw shall do so forthwith and shall absent himself during the remainder of the day's meeting. Sri Sanjay Singh, Sri Sushil Kumar Gupta, Sri N.D. Gupta. All of these three members are named as per the Rule 255. Please withdraw from the House. Please withdraw from the House. Please go out of the House. They wanted discussion. When the discussion is going to begin, they obstruct the House. Let the entire country watch this. And this is the behavior of people who want to rule and who are ruling in certain parts of the country. This is not fair for anybody, for any party. I am not naming any party. The House is adjourned to meet at 9:40.
All right, after ruckus in the Rajya Sabha, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu, sitting in the chair, has in fact adjourned the House for around 5 minutes. This, remember, after the government agreed to an extended discussion on the farmer agitation and the new farm laws. The opposition raises slogans in the Rajya Sabha. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu, in fact, has named the three members of parliament who were sloganeering in the House over the farmer issue, and as a result of the ruckus in Parliament, Rajya Sabha has once again been adjourned for a period of 5 minutes. So we'll continue to get you all the very latest from Parliament, but this of course is the latest story that we're tracking. The government, remember, has agreed for a discussion on the farmer issue. This after chaotic scenes in the Rajya Sabha yesterday. What we're also learning is that among the three members of parliament who've been named by Venkaiah Naidu at the moment, Aam Aadmi Party MPs have been named and asked to leave the House for today. Sanjay Singh of the Aam Aadmi Party, in fact, is one of those members of parliament. So this, of course, is the big story that we are, in fact, tracking for you. Well, from Parliament, let's now shift our focus to the Aero Show, which I'm told has just begun in Bengaluru. The Aero Show, remember, is the 13th edition. The first that's, of course, happening in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. So there are a whole host of restrictions that have been put in place. There is no public that has, in fact, been allowed. The entire part of the Aero Show that's actually open for public has been curtailed as a result of the pandemic. But the 13th edition of the Indian Aero Show has begun in Bengaluru. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is currently on the dais. Let's dip in and listen in.
Chief Marshal Rakesh Kumar Singh Bhaduria, Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Mukund Naravne, Defence Secretary Ministry of Defence Dr. Ajay Kumar, Secretary Defence Production Sri Raj Kumar, Secretary DRDO Dr. G. Satish Reddy, Secretary Ministry of Civil Aviation Sri Pradeep Singh Karola, Chief Secretary Government of Karnataka Sri P. Ravi Kumar. Thank you, respected sirs, for gracing this occasion. Aero India 21 is extremely fortunate to receive your endorsements and prides itself with your presence here today. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite the Secretary Defence Production Sri Raj Kumar for his welcome remarks.
Good morning, Honorable Raksha Mantri Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka Shri B.S. Yediyurappa Ji, Honorable Union Minister for Chemical and Fertilizer Shri TV Sabanand Gowda ji, Honorable Defence Ministers and High Commissioners and Ambassadors from various countries, Chief of Defence Staff Shri Bipin Rawat ji.
Well, Aero India 2021 takes off in Bengaluru. This, of course, is the big event that's taking place, the 13th edition in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is present at the inaugural ceremony of Aero India 2021. Seated alongside is the Chief Minister of Karnataka, B.S. Yediyurappa. Like I said, it's the first air show in the COVID era. It's going to be extremely interesting to see how this plays out. The first hybrid air show to be held. 13th edition of India's air show, of course, has been scaled down due to the COVID-19 pandemic. No special days have been set aside for the public. All right, those, I believe, are live pictures that we're getting to you from the skies of Bengaluru at the moment of LCA Tejas that has, in fact, taken off. Remember, in a huge boost to defence manufacturing, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh yesterday inaugurated the HAL Tejas facility, which will double the production of India's indigenous LCA Tejas. Those are spectacular scenes coming in from the air show. Let's dip in and listen in.
13th edition of Aero India 2021, the largest aerospace and defence exhibition of Asia. As we all On behalf of Government of India, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you in this 13th edition of Aero India 2021, the largest aerospace and defence exhibition of Asia. As we all are aware, the year 2020 has been a very challenging year for all of us, for the whole world, which has adversely affected of international stature under the dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji and Honorable Defence Minister Shri Rajnath Singh ji.
All right, we promised to bring you some of those spectacular images through the course of the morning. Aero India 2021 has kick-started in Bengaluru. We'll keep a close watch on that story. Moving on, India's COVID miracle, as many are calling it, continues as numbers continue to dip while the world is facing second and third waves of coronavirus infection. We are reporting the lowest cases and deaths in over 8 months. Delhi's Sero survey has in fact shown up that nearly 1 crore people have antibodies already.
Till recently, this was one of the busiest COVID hospitals in Delhi and India's biggest COVID hospital with 2,000 beds dedicated for it. Now, it's a reflection on how the number of cases, not just in Delhi, but in most parts of India, are manageable.
अभी हमारे पास जो नए केसेस हैं कोविड के वो बहुत कम आ रहे हैं. मुश्किल से 1 या 2 पेशेंट 24 घंटे में एडमिट होता है. पहले हमारे पास ये इंडोर एडमिशन की संख्या 30 से 40 थी और दिवाली के आसपास तो बहुत ज्यादा थी.
India has now reported the lowest number of daily cases, about 8,600 in 8 months. In fact, at around 12 to 13,000, the average daily new cases are down by almost a third in the last 5 weeks. Delhi, one of the few states which saw multiple waves of surging cases, seems to be, according to the health minister, headed towards herd immunity, which is when a majority of the population becomes immune.
राष्ट्रपति अभिभाषण किसानों का समस्या का चर्चा जारी और जिनको बोलना है वो बोले अनुमति लेके और समय भी पर्याप्त दिया है. इसके बाद भी आप लोग ऐसा हंगामा करें तो कोई मतलब नहीं है. लोग इससे संतुष्ट नहीं होंगे. दिस इज नथिंग बट वन अपमैनशिप. आई एम सॉरी टू से दिस. प्लीज मार्शल्स, help them to leave the house. Help them to leave the house. Nothing should be shown. Nothing should be shown. Nothing should be reported. Please, please, कृपया हाउस छोड़ दीजिए. मर्यादा परंपरा को पालन करिए. बहस होने दीजिए. किसानों के बारे में बहस होने दीजिए. देशवासी सुनना चाहते सदन में किसानों के बारे में चर्चा हो और कुछ अच्छा सुझाव आए और सरकार और विपक्ष मिलकर कुछ समाधान हल निकले. ये देशवासियों की इच्छा है. कृपया आप लोग मदद करिए. आप लोग प्लीज कृपया मार्शल्स को मदद दीजिए अपना काम करने के लिए. आप अपना काम करके उन लोगों को मदद करिए प्लीज। Motion on thanks on the President's address. Please, Naik, are you a separate party? Then please sit down. You talk to your leader, sir. You talk to your leader. No, I'm happy that you have not come to the well. Please be in your seat, and when you get an opportunity, please speak. Bajwaji, discussion starting about Kisans. Nothing else. To start with, it will be Kisan and then related issues which have been mentioned in the President's address. Please, Naik. अब जाइए, बैठ जाइए प्लीज, बैठ जाइए। बार चेयरमैन को ये करना अच्छा।
हमारे लीडर ने आपको वचन दिया है, इसीलिए
मुझे हो गया। अच्छा है, आपने अच्छा किया, आपने सदन का मर्यादा को पालन कर रहे और आपने अपना नेता को भी गौरव दिया, अच्छा है। ठीक, आप बैठ जाए, नहीं जाएगा ये रिकॉर्ड में नहीं जाएगा, No, Siva, please. No amendment. Amendments will come. I have to take up now. Give me some time to breathe. If members follow the rules and regulations, we will have congenial atmosphere to discuss. Once the President's address discussion starts, we will also have the amendments. Amendments moved by नहीं, उनको बताना पड़ेगा, यहाँ वहां भी नारा नहीं देना। बिगिनिंग है शुरू इसी से, शुरू से अभी नहीं करना, अभी तो गूगल से पॉलिसी मूव करेंगे। अब उनका नाम लेके बोलिए और वो भाषण होना है ना, उनका भाषण होगा, फिर सेकेंडर का भाषण होगा, फिर उसके बाद ये पद्धति। दिस इज द सिस्टम, मिस्टर शिवा। द मूवर ऑफ द मोशन, he will move and speak. Then the person who seconds this, he will speak. Then the House will take up amendments given by different members one by one, and then we will go to discussion. So, Sri Bhuvanesh Karita to move that an address to be presented to the President in the following times. I think that is a seat allotted to him. ठीक है।
चैम्बर सर,
तो ये कमेंट्स सबके लिए लागू होता है।
Honorable Chairman sir, I rise to move the following motion. The members of the Rajya Sabha assembled in this session are deeply grateful to the President for the address which he has been pleased to deliver to both the houses of Parliament assembled together on January 2021. Sir, the address which our President delivered on 29th of January 2021 is an important document and has historical significance. It is a speech full of achievements in different fields under dynamic leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri
All right, Rajya Sabha Chairman M. Venkaiah Naidu has suspended Aam Aadmi Party MP Sanjay Singh, ND Gupta and Sushil Gupta for the day after they raised slogans in the House over the farmer issue. Remember, the government has agreed for a discussion. There's been a breakthrough between the government and the opposition. We'll continue to keep a close watch on all the developments from the Rajya Sabha. We're going to slip into a very short break. Stay tuned to NDTV.